everybody, and welcome back to Aamsuntitledpodcast. I'm Am. Hi, if you've never met me before, it's really nice to meet you. Welcome to my Percy Jackson dedicated podcast. I'd first of all like to apologise as to why this episode is a teeny bit later than it was scheduled to go up. The heat last week was absolutely killing me. I had headache after headache, and I don't think I function very well in the heat, which is ironic considering like my roots are very much Asian and African. Which I don't know why. I can't cope in the heat. My brain doesn't work properly. And I had a trip on the Friday. I didn't come home till Saturday. And overall there was just a lot going on, and I didn't want to record the episode feeling rubbish because obviously this is something I love. This is so much of my time and effort that goes into these episodes, and I can't put an episode up that I know I'm not 100% happy with. So I'd like to apologize that this episode is a week late, but I really hope I can make up for it. Although I do have some good news for you guys, which is that by this time next week we should have hopefully finished the Son of Neptune book. It has been a long journey, but I'm so excited to get into the other books. At the minute I'm reading House of Hades. I'm planning to finish it off today, and these books are so amazing, and they're so much darker, and they're so much more adult, and they're so much more mature. They're just awesome, really. And you know, as a reader, and with Rick being my favorite, like I get just as excited. How many times have I read Heroes of Olympus all the way through now? Like maybe 3 or 4 times now, and I get just as excited reading these books now as I did then. There's something really truly special about them, and I can't wait to continue to share this journey with you guys. So, in today's episode, we will be doing part 7, which is chapters 43 to 49 in this book. So, literally, we're one episode away from finishing the book, which is mental, by the way. But I'm so excited to move on to Mark of Athena and for Percy and Annabeth to be reunited. There were so many amazing Perciveth moments that I can't wait to share again with you guys. But before I get into that, let's finish this book off together. Okay, so chapter 43 is Hazel's point of view, and it opens up with Frank, Percy, and Hazel riding Arion. Um, and they of course stop at the Hubbard Glacier, and Hazel notices that the glacier is cracking, and Arion sort of flies them to the top of the glacier, and they see a giant camp that looks exactly the same as Camp Jupiter, and they walk towards this massive gate, and Hazel can see Thanatos in chains, and of course she starts to feel a little bit uneasy. This part of the book in particular is quite dark. Like towards the second half of this book, I feel like it gets quite dark. Like, yeah, Lost Hero was dark, but I feel like this one is like it's kind of like the transition between like Sea of Monsters and the Titans Curse book. I feel like we are slowly digging deeper into how dark the series is going to go, and I think this is like our first little sneak peek into that. And Percy tells them that they're walking into a trap. Like this is literally a trap, but they have a mission to do and they can't leave without getting Thanatos out of there. So they have to complete the quest, so they have to go in. And Hazel calls out to Thanatos, and he raises his head, and the way it's described in the book actually gives me the creeps. Like it makes my skin crawl reading that scene, and of course the whole camp sort of stirs awake, which again it's leaning into this very like dark imagery, which I like that these books are getting darker and they feel a lot more adult, but I sometimes am not prepared for how dark it gets. Like I read these books after such a long period of time, and I'll be honest, like quite a lot of the stuff like I don't remember. And this was one of the scenes where I was like, "Ooh, like I'm actually not sure where this is going." In fairness, because I couldn't remember much of this book, and of course Frank agrees with Percy that they literally have just walked into a trap, and that's where this chapter sort of comes to an end. Chapter 44, we're still in Hazel's point of view, and it opens up with the ghosts sort of encircling around them with imperial gold weapons. The entire 12th Legion is possessed, which is really freaky to think about. Hazel tells Thanatos that they have come to save him, and of course takes off his robe. And the way Rick describes Thanatos, I feel like for the dark romance girlies, I feel like he's sort of right up their street. And these are Percy's words, not mine. And he says that, of course, he looks very buff. And like, do you know what it is? Like with me, is that I'm a very visual reader. So when I read something, it's almost as if the scene is happening in front of me in my eyes. I have a big imagination, and I've always had it, and I look at it as sometimes like a blessing and sometimes a bit of a curse when I can imagine certain things, and maybe in my brain they look as a lot scarier than they actually are. And I'm just imagining like this dark, like shadowy, really buff sort of muscly, strong figure coming out, and that it gave me the heebie-jeebies a little bit. It freaked me out, I can tell you that much. And Thanatos is confused as to why Hazel wants to save him. And Percy uses Riptide to try and free Thanatos, but the blade gets stuck, and somehow Frank manages to help him get Riptide out. Hazel tells him that she doesn't care in the end if he dies or not. She just needs to release Thanatos. They need him, basically. And he tells them that the shades are spirits that have been promised a second life by Gaia. So if Thanatos is released and the spirits are defeated, the souls will suffer eternal punishment. And that's really creepy. Like, a lot of these people have joined forces with Gaia because she offers opportunities. And of course, this was an opportunity for them to get a second life. And of course, once Thanatos gets released, that second life will come to an end very, very, very quickly. And of course, for siding with Gaia, they do deserve to be eternally punished. And I thought that the way it was phrased in the book was very interesting. And Thanatos tells him that only the fire of life can release him. Now, immediately in my brain, alarm bells were ringing. I was like, no, please, no, Frank. Not Frank. Anyone but Frank. You know what? Frank was one of those characters where when I read the series for the first time, he was one of the people that I just loved. And I couldn't explain why. I don't know what it is about him, what I found so endearing. And he's such a sweet character. Do you know what? Actually, he gives me a little bit of a Tyson vibe, which maybe that is why I love him so much. And that's why, as soon as the words fire of life were used, instantly I panicked. I was like, no, please, not Frank. Literally anyone but Frank. And Frank realizes what he has to do, and Alcinaeus enters the scene. He tells Hazel that he would have risen decades ago, but thanks to her, he had to wait. Yeah, Hazel's a badass. You know what? She is one of my favorite women out of the seven. Like Annabeth, my girl, she'll always be top tier for me. But Hazel, she's definitely up there. She is an amazingly powerful demigod, and I just love her. Like I just can't explain to you how much I love her. She's just great. And he introduces himself as the Blaine? That's not what I meant to say. The Bane of Pluto, the new master of death, and this is his new legion. And I just thought, oh shit. I was just like, here we go. I was like, it's about to get really dark and really bad. But I love it. Like I live for stuff like that. And you know what? These one-liners that these characters come out with are so powerful. And I feel like Rick is sort of like the best person at giving like these really good one-liners. Like Percy in a lot of the first five books had some brilliant one-liners. And think this one, the Bane of Pluto, the new Master of Death, and I was just like, wow. Instantly I was just wow. It was amazing. And that's where that chapter sort of comes to an end. Chapter 45, we move on to Frank's point of view, and it opens up with Frank being terrified of Thanatos because he had taken his mother basically. And he finally understood that his mother's sacrifices, and when she used to say that some things are just worth dying for. Like I love Rick because he is able to teach a moral lesson in such a simple way. Like, I pick up so many things now that maybe as a kid didn't register to me. As an adult reader, I'm like, wow. I was like, he really does. He's the best person at teaching a moral lesson. Like, I've read loads of different authors, and some resonate with me, some don't. And I have personal reasons why I do like certain authors and whatever, but there is something about Rick's writing that nothing isn't always explicitly stated. It's sometimes you just got to read between the lines a little bit. And, it's a lot of these books is about sacrifice and giving things up for the people that you love. And Percy is the perfect example of that. His fatal flaw is loyalty. Like he will burn down Olympus for the people that he cares about. He will move mountains for the people that he cares about. And another thing that I see is like a glimpse of that in Frank as well, which is like he would do anything to protect Hazel. He would do anything to protect Percy. They have this bond, this friendship, and it's this idea that like Frank is finally learning that, some people are worth dying for. Some people are worth giving their lives for. Some people are worth the risk. And it's such a lovely, lovely lesson. And I've got to say, like, I haven't like read a lot of authors that can teach a lesson like that. I just love Rick. Like, I am so lucky to have found him when I did. Like, his books always make me laugh, they make me cry. They touch parts, like, I'm not a very um emotional person. Like, I'm very guarded in terms of how I feel. But when he writes, for some reason the tears just flow naturally, and it's because I really do connect with what's written on, like, on the text, and I believe the words that he's saying, and I think that's the most important thing. And I feel like that's, you've succeeded as an author when you're able to draw a genuine human emotion out of people, especially out of people like me that are not very emotional in general. And yeah, it was just such a beautiful, beautiful lesson that I picked up from that, and I was so excited to share that with you guys. Anyway, Frank asked for the stick from Hazel, which obviously he gave to her to look after because he trusts her with his life. And, she simply says, I don't want to give it to you. And you know what? Like, honestly, it was like that moment made me teary because I was like, no, I was like, please. I was like, this can't be the end for the two of them. Like, they are like the other couple that I wish for to have a happy ending. So when this scene was going on, and I was like, oh, I don't want this to be the end. And, Thanatos sort of says to Frank that, yeah, you do have to make the sacrifice. This is the sacrifice. And it's such an awful position to be in. And I have such like a unique connection to each one of these characters. Like, I always feel what they're feeling at that period of time, and just seeing Hazel being like, no, I don't want to do it, like, it really did tug at my heartstrings. And Alcinous tells Frank that he has to kill him, and that he has been waiting to meet Percy because Gaia hates him the most. This is a very important detail, and this is not something I pick up on all the time, but I've just thought of it. In the Blood of Olympus book, like, we know that Gaia hates Percy. We know that Gaia hates all demigods, but she's got a special level of hatred for Percy and a special level of hatred for Annabeth. And of course, we learn more about why she hates them as the books go on. But I thought that that was a really nice, like, little invisible string, or like seed that Rick has planted that he waters and reaps later, which I like. And then they want to keep polyboats uh how do I phrase this? I'm trying to think of how. And that they want like polyboats wants to keep him as a pet. Um and I just remember just looking, like, reading that and being like, absolutely not. Like, you're not doing that to Percy. Like, I have like a lot of sympathy for demigods. Like I said, I do feel a connection to all of them. But Percy has always been the one that I feel the most protective of, that I care the most about. And the thought of like someone trying to hurt him just genuinely upset me, and I was just like, no, that's not happening. I can't handle it. I can't let them take him, basically. And of course, Percy raises Riptide and tells him that he's a son of Poseidon from Camp Half-Blood. And you know what? Something just clicked. And it was so, I can't even explain it when I was reading it. It was just like all of a sudden he remembered where he was from. He knew that he's Greek. He knew that he's a son of Poseidon. He knew that he was from Camp Half-Blood, that that was his home. And it was such a emotional moment for me because I was like, oh my God, like, the bits of his memory are coming back. He's remembering who he is and what he stands for. And seeing him with memory loss was like the hardest thing for me. I was just like, he's lost what makes him so special and so lovely, and the amazing character that he is. And I'm glad, like, in this moment it came back. I needed that. Like, I needed that to pull me out of the depression that I was feeling as I was reading this book. But yeah, I remember just thinking when I was reading it, that that's my boy. Like, I knew it. I knew it was gonna happen, and it was the perfect moment for it to happen. Alcideus tells him that they are going to destroy the gods at their source, Now, that was also a hint, which is like where the battle for the Blood of Olympus takes like place is in Greece. And I've always wanted to see that area of Greece, and it is my dream one day to be able to go and see this place in person. And destroying the gods at their source is crazy, by the way. But I love the way it was worded in the book. Um, he also says that he wants to replace Pluto as Lord of the Underworld and have Hazel at his service. And of course, we know that she would never do such a thing, and she straight out refuses. And I was like, "Yes, Queen, tell him you have more worth than that." And Hazel says that she is a daughter of Pluto, so she should kill him. And I was like, "Yes, I agree, please." Like, I'm all about the girl power, I'm all about the feminism, and the fact that she could possibly get the opportunity to do that, I think is pretty cool. And the chapter sort of closes with her telling Percy to protect Fran so that she can take care of the giant. And yeah, I just love that all the women in this universe are courageous. They're brave. They're not afraid to stand their ground. They don't run from fear. They run directly into danger. And that is what I appreciate. I'm not a fan of the helpless women, like, sort of stereotype. Like, I love a woman who can stand up for themselves, who is a face of feminism. And, I feel like Hazel does that character so well, and she's like a good embodiment of like feminism, which I like. And I like that Annabeth is like that. Pretty much all the women in the Seven are brilliant women, and they're absolutely the most courageous women I've ever seen written in books. So yeah, I just love all of them, and I'm glad that Rick gives so much importance to that feminism as well. Okay, chapter 64, 46. I can't read today. Again, we're still in Frank's point of view, and he unwraps the stick and he kneels at the feet of Thanatos while Percy holds the army off. Um, Frank thinks about the flames to burn the chains, and he all of a sudden gets these flashbacks of his mother and Percy, and he breaks the first chain. Percy has also created this mini hurricane to defeat the ghosts around him. And do you know what? It was one of those things where he created a hurricane. I think it was in the last Olympian book for the first time. And now, like, because I forget that he is so powerful. And I don't, maybe it's because, like, I love the demigod side of him, please don't get me wrong, but the thing that I love the most about Percy is his heart, is his humility, is his emotions and his feelings for people. That I forget that he's a child of the big three. Like, he is one of the most powerful demigods to walk the earth. And it's just like, wow. And when I read things like this, I'm like, he really is the deal. Like, when people are hyping him up, I can see why, because he is so powerful. And Percy gets the eagle, and he tells the ghost to come with him, to come and get him. Of course, the normal Persassy nature has come back. It's like bits of his personality when they come back, like that Persassiness, the remembering his roots and who he is and being true to his heart. Like, when all those things come together, it reminds me of the Percy that we used to know. And like, it feels like he's finally getting back in touch with that Percy, if that makes sense. Frank manages to break the second and third chain, and his whole body was in pain. Honestly, I was dying. I was just like, I know they need to finish this quest, but like, Frank getting hurt felt like it was squeezing my heart a little bit, and I was not a fan. And of course, he can see Percy fighting the ghosts, but they keep reforming because obviously there's no Thanatos to take him to the underworld, unfortunately. And Hazel and Alcinous are really like going at each other, and Arian is, of course, doing his best to help her, which is nice. I'm glad she has that bond, like a bond between her and Arian. Like, we learn so much about the two of them in this book, and it's nice to see that they have each other's back. It kind of, I know it's not the same thing, but it kind of reminds me of Percy's relationship with Blackjack. And yeah, it was nice to just see that. And of course, Death's last chain eventually snaps, and Frank extinguishes the flame. And touch wood, he's still alive, thank God. Thanatos realizes that he's been freed and promises whichever spirits die will stay dead this time. Frank tells Percy that they will, like, the ghost will die now, basically, and he looks so exhausted. Exhausted? Yeah, that's how I said the word. I thought I said something else for a second there. And of course Frank decides to help him. And Frank tells Death that if he is going to burn, he's going to burn so bright. And you know what? Frank's spirit in this book, because he's kind of seen this coming, like he sort of saw that he would have to die in a sense, or like be brought to like the brink of death. And his spirit is honestly so commendable in this book. Like he's so optimistic, like despite the circumstances that they're in. And it's probably one of the other reasons why I like him so much. Like he's a very positive, grounded character. And like I said, there are a few traits of him that remind me of Percy as well. Frank, of course, hears Hazel scream, and Percy tells him to go and help her, even though he was struggling. And this guy, honestly, like, I've always said this, and I will continue to say it, he's so noble. And I know that one day that nobleness and that selflessness might get him killed, but I wouldn't change a thing about it. Like, I don't think I'd be as attached to Percy if he didn't have these character traits, if that makes sense. And I don't think I would have connected with him as much as I do if he wasn't like this. So, yeah, it's sort of one of those things where that nobleness, that loyalty, that selflessness is a bit of a blessing and a curse at the same time. It just depends on how it weighs on the scale, if that makes sense. And then Frank just like transforms into an eagle and he attacks the giant. Also, this whole shape shifting like ability is such an interesting ability to be able to have. And it's so cool. Like I wish like I could do something like that. Like just being able to transform into any animal you want just sounds absolutely perfect. I'm an absolute animal lover as well, so I think that's amazing. And of course, Frank defends his woman and he tells Hazel, get on the horse while he charges at at the giant while transforming into a bear. And he asks Hazel, "How high do you think Arian can carry the giant?" But Hazel just kind of stands there, sort of dumbfounded. Do you know what? I think she is so in awe of Frank, and like it's really cute because she's got this like massive crush on him, and it's so adorable. And they're like two really really sweet people. And I was just like, oh, you poor thing. Like she's swooning, but she's also like, wow. Does that make sense? And Frank calls out to Percy, and but he tells them, to just go without him basically. And Percy slams Riptide into the glacier and it collapses, sending him over the edge of the cliff. And I was like, oh my god. I was like, no, don't you dare, Rick. I was like, don't do it to me. I was like, you've already given him amnesia. You've already taken him away from Annabeth. There is no need to kill him off. There is no need for that scare. And I remember like I slammed the book shut when I read this for the first time. I was like, no, there's literally no way. He wouldn't do this to me. I was like, this is not how Percy's supposed to die. I was like, it's not gonna happen. I was like, he's got a whole future with Annabeth waiting for him. I was like, it's not happening. Um, and of course, like you probably have realised that I don't get that defensive about anyone unless it is Percy because I've got a really really soft spot for him. But I just thought it was a great sort of like way to end the chapter because it kind of leaves the audience on a bit of a cliffhanger. So as much as that annoys me and it frustrates me as a writer, I think it's the sort of right call to make. Okay, so chapter 47, Frank's point of view. Frank is still stunned by what he's seen, and Hazel sort of calls his name, and he knocks the giant out with his shield. And Death asks them if they know what to do, and Hazel says that she thinks so. Hazel asks if he is going to claim her soul because obviously she should be dead and she shouldn't be around. But he says that her name isn't on the list. Oh, thank God. I'm glad like Pluto sort of put in a word so that she wouldn't be killed because I would be so upset if she got separated from Frank. I feel like she has a lot more to achieve as a member of this prophecy, and it would be almost a shame if Death took her. Um, Death tells Frank that he will meet him under worse circumstances. Fantastic. That's what I was thinking. I was like, great. And if you didn't realize I'm being sarcastic, I am being sarcastic. Like, I don't want Frank to die either. I'm sorry, but I can't allow that. And Death says that he doesn't know how they will close the doors of death, but they should start in the original Rome. So he's sort of kind of giving them a hint. So I suppose he's helpful in some aspect. And Hazel asks about whether Nico is alive. But he tells her that she will find her answer in Rome and that Death is flying to Camp Jupiter to claim the souls that are going to die. Oh boy. I forgot that at war as well, which is quite scary. And then eventually death sort of dissipates into black smoke, and Hazel says that they've got to get the giant 10 miles north. Frank doesn't believe that Percy's dead. Me neither, honestly. I have this ray of hope when it comes to him that he will power through. And once again, they reach the mountains and drop Alcinous so they can kill him, and he wakes up. Frank tells the giant that he is no longer in Alaska and he transforms into an elephant, and Hazel stabs the giant in the neck and he dissolves into a pile of rocks. So they did it together as a team. And in some aspects, some people might not think that that's romantic, but I kind of think defeating a giant together is romantic. Yes, I'm aware there's something wrong with me. Let's not. Okay? And Hazel, of course, kisses him. And you know what? I didn't see that coming. It was one of those things where it was like, do you remember the Percabeth kiss for the first time in the Battle of the Labyrinth book? Literally caught me by surprise. I can't tell you how many times, like no matter how many times I read that book, it still shocks me. Even though I know it's coming, it will still shock me. This shocked me even more because I was like, whoa, I didn't realize that she was that brave. But they are so cute, and I'm glad like they got to have like a little moment without anybody being there. Gaia tells them that they will never reach camp in time, so they climb onto Arion and speed towards the glacier bay. Okay, so the second to last chapter that we're going to be talking about is chapter 48, which is Frank's point of view again. And Percy, of course, walks up to them as if nothing's ever happened, the same way like he kind of walked up to um, Annabeth and Grover from the St. Louis Arch. I kind of got a little bit of a flashback from that. And, Percy tells him that his shape shifting ability comes from Poseidon, and Percy is jealous of that attribute. Like, I just remember being like, it's sort of kind of his way to hype Frank up, like to make him see that he is special and he has like a quality that even Percy, as the most powerful demigod, doesn't have, which is, I think, an interesting concept. Hazel tells them that they need to go to Camp Jupiter because the camp is under attack. They grab the Imperial gold weapons and a chariot so Arion can pull it. I love a chariot. I love the idea of a chariot being pulled by a horse. I just think it's such a cool concept, and it's such like an interesting part of Greek mythology that I enjoy that imagery, if that makes sense. I love a chariot, and I think like the chariot scene in season 2 was probably like one of my favorite parts of that season. I just think it's absolutely awesome. Um, Percy tells Hazel that he's going to wash out Arion's mouth with soap because I'm assuming Arion was saying some naughty, naughty words. And I just love that Persassy is back. Like, it's such an integral part of his personality. And now that he's slowly feeling more like himself again, like, it's nice that he's back to doing that. And I think like a lot of like the reason why I don't maybe enjoy the Lost Hero book as much is because like I miss Percy's humor. Like, because obviously for the first 5 books, like we were constantly in his point of view, like we knew the thoughts that were going on in his head, and it was like we were experiencing everything with him. And like all of a sudden there were 3 new characters, and it was like, where's Percy? Like, you know what I mean? Like, I think I had the reaction that every other Percy Jackson fan has, which is like, well, where's he gone? Like, But as much as like maybe that book might not be a favorite, it's still like of course important to the story, and it still gives me Piper and Leo, and I love them as characters. But yeah, I do miss Percy, and it's nice to see like towards the end of this book that he is slowly, slowly coming back to who he was, and I just love that. I think that's amazing. And of course, they all get into the chariot and they race off with Arion, and that's how the chapter comes to the end. So, chapter 49, the last chapter we're going to be talking about in this part of the episode, is Percy's point of view. And apparently, it took them 4 hours to get to San Francisco Bay. Percy's memory is now completely restored, and it took a whole book for it to come back, but my baby is back to who he was, and I love him even more now than I did before. And he's so pissed off with Hera for abducting him and taking away 8 months of his life. You and me both. Like the one thing I can never understand, and I know it's just Hera being bitchy and playing like a game with these demigods' lives, right? But why didn't she just come and tell Percy and Jason? What was the need to run off with their memories and throw them in opposite camps? Like, I get, like, the gods try to make things interesting and whatever, but genuinely, that could have literally been a conversation. Like, there was no need. to abduct these men and take away their memories. Like, literally no need for it. But I understand that Hera's a bit of a bitch and she will do it her way. But yeah, it still annoys me even to this day that she did what she did. Um, and they eventually get out of the chariot and they can all barely stand, which is quite funny. They of course see Camp Jupiter at war, and of course it doesn't seem like it's going very well for the Roman campers. And Frank is wondering where Lupa is, but Percy tells him that she did what she could and that the rest is up to them. Yeah, Lupa is one of those characters where it's like she can only give her guidance. Like it's up to you what you do with the things that she's taught you. And I'm glad like Percy is now at the age where he doesn't need to be told everything. Like he's given the guidance and he can just sort of roll with the punches. And that's what I love about his character. And Percy whistles really loudly and Tyson comes in with Ella and Mrs. O'Leary. Oh my god, Tyson and Ella, so cute. Like I think that they're just adorable, and of course the lovely Mrs. O'Leary, who we haven't seen in a really long time. So it was nice that Rick sort of brought her full circle and back into this series again. Tyson gives him a big hug, telling him that he's glad that he isn't dead. Yeah, me too. Like he must have definitely missed his brother in 8 months. I mean, I missed Percy, and I was kind of on this journey with him, so I can't imagine how Tyson must have felt. Ella's brushing while talking about how Tyson helped her. They're so sweet. I just love them so much. I think they're just absolutely adorable. And Percy asks if Annabeth is coming, but apparently they're still 2 days away. I was like, for God's sake, I was like, please, I just need them to be together. Like, I can't explain to you how much it annoys me that they were separated for so long. Like, it was literally making my heart mourn because I was like, oh my God, please don't tell me I have to wait a whole book for them to get back together again. And Frank asks Tyson if he can fight, and Percy tells him that he is the general of the Cyclops army. Yeah, Tyson, like, he's such a sweet character, but he's also such a badass, and that's what I like about him. And Percy tells Tyson that Frank is a descendant of Poseidon, and he hugs him, calling him a brother. Oh, so adorable! Like, there is just something about Tyson. Like, he has a heart of gold and he's so open. Like even though like Percy and him are like half brothers, and of course like Frank is a somewhat distant descendant of Poseidon, like Tyson still shows Frank the same level of respect and love that he shows Percy, and I adore him for that. There's no segregation, like just because their mothers are different, like he loves everybody equally, and I'm so honestly just so happy with it. Percy tells Ella to stay put, but she says that she wants to go with Tyson. You know what? It's so cute. Like it kind of gives me a little bit of Percy Beth vibes. Like, this idea that, Annabeth never lets Percy run into danger alone, and of course Ella wants to join Tyson because she doesn't want to get him and she doesn't want him to get her, which is very sweet. And the chapter sort of comes to an end with Percy asking Mrs. O'Leary how she feels about pulling a chariot. Oh my, okay, so a lot going on. Let's kind of wrap this up with my final thoughts and feelings on this segment of the book. Um, like I said, the way Rick described Thanatos, he made him sound so like attractive, but also very like ethereal and like n- one of those characters that you can't possibly imagine. Like it's a once in a lifetime experience to see him, if that makes sense. The lesson that Rick tells us about some things being worth the sacrifice was so beautiful. And I disagree with these people that say that Percy Jackson is just a children's book. I think there's something, and I always say this, I think there's something for everyone of all like of all ages to pick up. Like I've been lucky enough to bring my best friend into this, to give him a hand into this world, that hand that I wish somebody had given me. And it's like I said, there's probably a lot that you can learn from this book. Like despite the fact that it's set in like a mythological universe or like in a fantasy sort of area, there's still like a lot that can be applied from that into real life, and you don't get like a lot of that with other books. So it's nice that Rick has made he teaches a moral lesson in a fantasy world that can be applied to real life. And even though these books have been written, like maybe the Heroes of Olympus books, like how many years were they written? It's got to be what, 10 of, no, it's got to be more than 10 years. Hold on, let me figure it out. Yeah, so the Lost Hero book was released in 2010, right? Which is 16 years ago almost. But it's amazing because like we're still learning stuff now. Like these books, they're just as important as they were all those years ago. And like obviously it's amazing. I'm so lucky. Like the Lightning Thief book was released the same year I was born, which is amazing. So like that's how I kind of mark it, which is like it's 21 years old. But I think despite the fact that these books were written decades ago, it has such an important meaning to like what's going on now. And that's why I just love it. Like they're transferable from then to now, which I adore. And of course, when Percy tells Alcinous that he's the son of Poseidon and he's from Camp Half-Blood, I was like, yes, this is it. This is the moment I've been waiting for since I read this book. I was waiting for the penny to drop in his mind for him to remember who he is. And I think Rick just timed that moment so perfectly. And of course, Percy was unreal for the way that he held those ghosts off. Like I swear, I like I've stated before, like I forget how powerful he is. And a lot of the time I'm just as like gobsmacked. I'm just as dumbfounded as everyone else when he does these things because I'm like, wow, he is just amazing is all I can say. Um, when Frank obviously released Thanatos and he made that promise that the souls that they kill now will stay dead, it was just very important moment. Like this is what they need. Like they don't need more monsters reforming. Like once they dealt with them, they need to be gone basically. And of course, Frank and Hazel, when they killed the giant together and she kisses him, completely caught me off guard. But I love a bold woman, and I like that the woman is always making the first move in these books. It's very interesting. And yeah, so many attributes of Hazel remind me of Annabeth, and that's why I think I love her so much. And of course, Tyson is back in this book, which is nice. He's so adorable, and the way that he embraces Frank as a brother and as a family member was so cute. And Ella having like a little bit of a crush on him, absolutely adorable. I'm not surprised, the Poseidon boys, they have unmatched Riz. Their father has fathered the most demigod children out of all the Olympians, and I could see why he has charm, you could say, and his sons have definitely inherited that. And of course, the lovely Mrs. O'Leary, she was back too, and that was like a nice surprise as well. So, yeah, that's everything. I really hope you guys enjoyed this episode. I'm sorry it's a little bit long. I thought I was keeping this concise, but obviously not. Thank you so much for listening in. I really appreciate it. All episodes of the podcast are available to stream on Spotify and on my YouTube channel. Both are at Aamsuntitledpodcast. Follow me on Instagram, follow me on Threads to be the first to know when a new episode goes live for any Percy Jackson content. I'm hoping for some season 3 content this month. Come on, it's San Diego Comic Con. Like, if I don't get anything this month, I'm genuinely going to be really upset. Like, I feel like we've been so patient and it's been worrying me so much. But I think San Diego Comic Con is scheduled from the 23rd of July to the 26th. So I'm really hoping we get something, but we will see. And like I said, really hope you guys enjoyed the episode. If you've got any questions for me, feel free to email me, DM me on Instagram. All my details will be listed in the description box below, and I will speak to you guys next week. Mwah. Bye.